I found an entire set of priceless black gold trading cards. I located the owner through an online lost and found post, saving them losses worth multiple luxury villas. The owner was moved to tears, took my contact details, and promised to have my school commend me. But instead of recognition, I later received an exorbitant compensation lawsuit. The owner turned around and accused me of swapping his cards, claiming I cost him millions. My roommate, who knew the truth, chose to kick me when I was down. Saren, just hand over the cards you're hiding, don't be so greedy. The owner already compensated you. Then she turned to the owner and offered to testify in court. From then on, my teachers and classmates looked down on me with contempt. They called me greedy, hypocritical, and disgusting, a disgrace to the school's reputation and societal trash who corrupted the entire academic environment. On the day of the trial, I was killed by an out-of-control truck. After my death, my parents were forced to sell our house and car, exhausting all our family assets to repay debts. Meanwhile, my righteous roommate bought a house, got a car, married into wealth, and reached the peak of success. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I found those cards. A sudden snap snapped me back to consciousness. My foot landed on something that felt like a photo album, just like in a past life. My roommate Cora kicked the thing away with her foot. Who just throws trash around like that? Disgusting. But I knew exactly what it was. In my past life, out of curiosity I picked it up, only to discover it was an invaluable black gold card. Yet after I returned it untouched to its owner, saving them from massive financial loss, I was falsely accused of swapping the cards inside and faced astronomical compensation demands. Just when I couldn't defend myself, Cora, the only one who knew the truth, said, "Saren, I'm really sorry. Even though you're my roommate, I can't go against my conscience. You should return that card to its owner. I told you before, something that valuable shouldn't be taken." Everyone branded me as trash, a disgrace to society, and a stain on the school's reputation. On the very day of the court hearing, I was killed by an out-of-control truck. Meanwhile, my righteous roommate bought a house and car after my death, married into wealth, and lived her best life. Lost in thought for a moment. I picked it up anyway. "Saren, seriously, you're actually picking up this trash," Cora said with disgust, yet still leaned in closer. "What the hell is this? Some kiddie trading cards, gonna take them home to play with? Ha ha. I brushed off the dust and opened it. Just as I remembered from my past life, every single one of these is worth millions. A whole book like this could buy you a plot of land in the provincial capital. Seeing my silence, my roommate pulled out their phone for an image search, muttering, "Let's see what kind of little card this really is." What the hell? Just as expected, a shocked exclamation erupted the moment the search results appeared. "Saren, let's keep this. We'll be rich if we sell it. Nobody will ever know. Imagine buying cars and houses with this money. We'd be living the dream. This is our ticket to the top. Look, I know you found it. But finders keepers, let's split it 50-50. That's fair, right?" That's exactly how the conversation went in my past life. But I'd already made up my mind to return the items before Cora even said those words, despite Cora's repeated attempts to convince me otherwise, saying we'd never have to worry about money again if we kept them. I firmly rejected her suggestion and posted a lost and found notice online instead. Within 2 days, the owner came knocking, insisting on sending me a red envelope as a reward, but I kept waving my hands in refusal. The owner then asked for my contact details, saying the school would commend me. Before I could refuse, Cora had already given her our contact information. Little did I know, what awaited me wasn't recognition but an exorbitant compensation demand. "Saren, are you even listening?" Cora's voice snapped me out of my daze, the card album in my hand suddenly feeling like a hot potato. The burning sensation spread from my palms straight to my heart, making my eyes well up with tears. "Fine. Keep it if you want, I don't need it." With that, I thrust the card album toward them. My abrupt surrender actually made Cora hesitate to accept. "Wait, what do you mean? You don't want it? Keep it. It's all yours. It's just an ordinary card anyway. If you like it, take it. It's useless to me. I'm not into this sort of thing." Cora looked puzzled. "Did you even hear what I just said?" "Yeah, I heard you," I said nonchalantly. "You actually believe that? These are just regular cards that happen to look similar. If you like them, just take them." With that, I shoved the card album into Cora's hands. Cora paused, as if trying to gauge whether I genuinely didn't know their value. After a long moment, seeing my unchanged expression, she finally let out a slight sigh of relief. Alright then, I'll take this with me. Just remember, once it's in my hands, it's mine for good. I nodded. Once you take it, it's yours. Whatever happens afterward has nothing to do with me. She clearly missed the subtext of my words, but couldn't hide the delight spreading across her face. I added, but honestly, if this card is really that valuable, how loaded must the owner be? Some hotshot CEO of a listed company or something. TSK, you're totally out of our league now. That kind of wealth is beyond my wildest dreams. Cora replied pensively, must be filthy rich then, seeing the hopeful glint in her eyes. I smirked inwardly, can't say about the wealth, but the ruthlessness, that's undeniable. Greed has always been humanity's downfall, yet avarice remains an inescapable human trait. True to form, the very next day I saw Cora post a lost and found notice online. She even included a selfie and paid for promotional boosts. Just a few days later, Cora stepped out all dolled up in her finest attire. Before leaving, she tucked that card album into her bag. I pretended not to know and casually asked where she was headed. When she heard my question, she instinctively hid her bag behind her back and mumbled something about just going shopping. When she returned that evening, her flushed face radiated irrepressible joy. Sporting a brand new designer bag, I knew exactly what was coming next. Just had to wait for them to show up at my door. May she endure all the vicious curses I suffered in my past life. I'm already looking forward to it. Back in my dorm that evening, I absent-mindedly scrolled through news feeds and stumbled upon something my past self would never have known. At the bottom of the news section was a column titled, Treasure Trove. My eyes locked onto the featured image. It was that prized Lotus card from my collection, the most valuable one in the album. When I clicked through, I realized it was an auction notice specifically for that very Lotus card. Those fragmented memories suddenly clicked into place, shedding new light on the whole picture. It always puzzled me. If Cora just wanted to land a sugar daddy, she didn't need to frame me. With her looks, she stood a decent chance of winning Kane over. Why take such a huge risk committing perjury? Getting caught would mean utter ruin. So this is where the missing, swapped out card ended up. She framed me to cover up the fact that she's the real card-switching thief. This way she gets the money from selling the card scot-free, while I'm left holding the bag for all the consequences and blame. What a clever little scheme. I kept scrolling down. The comment section below was buzzing with activity. Holy shit, there are only 30 of these Lotus cards in the entire world, and I actually get to witness this moment right here. As far as I know, all 30 cards already have owners. They're basically collector's items now. Who in their right mind would bring this to a place like this for auction? These usually go to major auction houses as grand finales. I'm skeptical about its authenticity. Seconding the above, I'm in this business, and this card has no business being here. This venue isn't worthy of it. Could it be some clueless rich kid sneaking it out to sell? That could actually happen. Things would get interesting then. I quietly took a screenshot of the news page, sensing this would come in handy sooner or later. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this particular morning, Cora, who usually skipped her morning workouts, got up unusually early. She even washed her hair, put on makeup, and wore a cute little dress, a far cry from our sleep-deprived, disheveled morning selves. She linked arms with me enthusiastically. Saren, let's go together. I gave her a knowing glance but chose not to call it out. They're coming. She thought this was her moment of glory. Little did she know it marked the beginning of her darkest hour. Just as I finished my first lap around the track, I spotted the academic dean approaching from a distance with several people in tow. Clearly, Cora had noticed them too. She immediately slowed her pace and began smoothing her hair and adjusting her clothes. To my surprise, the academic office actually brought commendation rather than uniformed officers. Kane even brought reporters, praising Cora to the dean as a model contemporary youth, incorruptible and unswayed by money. He went on complimenting the dean about the school's exemplary education, saying such outstanding students set the standard for modern society. The faculty members were visibly thrilled. Beaming radiantly for the television cameras, Cora smiled shyly, batting her eyelashes as she sweetly addressed the camera. It's really nothing special. Our school always teaches us to be honest and trustworthy. I just did what anyone should do. Such lavish praise really isn't necessary. With that, she lowered her head with a demure smile, but from my vantage point, I caught the unmistakable glint of smugness in her eyes. The whole scene left me utterly bewildered. How did things turn out this way? I clearly saw those swapped cards on the website. How could Kane have missed them? But if he did notice, Why would he give her such a grand commendation instead of calling her out? Something feels off, but I just can't put my finger on what's wrong. After the award ceremony aired on TV, Cora became the talk of the whole school. Unmoved by priceless treasures, she embodied the persona of a pure and resolute goddess. Overnight, she became the campus crush, with students even spontaneously forming a Cora fan club. The news interview played on loop for 3 days across the university's central display screens. The school administration held a special commendation ceremony, where Cora delivered a keynote speech lasting over half an hour. Local newspapers featured her on their front pages, chronicling her exemplary deeds as a role model for the new generation. After this incident, Cora became the undisputed star of the school, its most celebrated student and the epitome of academic excellence. She was given priority for all academic honors and prestigious school projects. Soon after, Cora moved off campus, citing constant disruptions from male students camping outside her dorm to confess their feelings. Plus, guys keep confessing to me, which makes my boyfriend jealous. The other two roommates immediately perked up. Cora, since when did you get a boyfriend? How come we never knew? Oh, we just started dating recently, but he treats me really well. He even rented the apartment off campus for me. Their envious squeals filled the room, but my gaze lingered on the watch around his wrist, lost in thought. That watch is a luxury brand, costing tens of thousands. Given Cora's family background, it's highly unlikely she could afford something this expensive. What's more, I feel like I've seen this watch somewhere before. Suddenly it hit me. I had definitely seen this watch before. Cora, where exactly did you move to? Need any help moving your stuff? We'd love to give you a hand, and show us around your fancy new place. Eager to confirm my suspicion, I chimed in warmly. Oh please, it's no mansion, Cora cooed with false modesty. Just a simple 3-bedroom apartment. Really, if you don't mind, we can all go take a look tomorrow. Her words feigned humility, but her face betrayed unmistakable pride. The next day, we helped Cora move her belongings to her rented place. The moment we entered the residential complex, I felt an odd sense of familiarity. It wasn't until I stood at the unit entrance that I finally dared to believe it was true. That's right, I'm officially the owner of this apartment. The string of red chili peppers still hanging by the door. I put those up myself before leaving for winter break last year. My parents bought this studio apartment worrying I wouldn't adjust to dorm life. But I ended up settling in just fine at school, so this place has sat empty ever since. Since the place was just sitting empty, I figured I might as well rent it out to earn some extra cash for living expenses. Little did I expect the apartment would somehow end up with Cora. After getting back, I called my mom to confirm the tenant's name. Just as I suspected, it was Kane. They ended up getting together just like in their past lives. After my death, Cora married Kane. In their previous life, Kane was indeed wealthy, but this lifetime's Kane might not be the same. After all, in my past life, I was their scapegoat. I won't be that foolish again in this lifetime, so who'll become the scapegoat this time? Watching Cora sitting in the classroom, frantically typing on her phone with that love-struck smile playing on her lips, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity. I secretly felt a pang of sympathy for Cora, never suspecting they were already scheming to make me their scapegoat. A post titled, "The Return of the High-Energy Lotus Brand," quietly surfaced on the campus forum I never paid attention to. At first, nobody paid any mind to that post, until Kane showed up at school with his crew again. A gang of them aggressively cornered me at the lecture hall entrance once more, replaying the exact same scene from my past life. "Saren, you're suspected of theft. We need to take you in for questioning." Me, theft? What exactly did I steal from whom? Unless you explain properly, I'm not going anywhere with you. In my past life, I was completely defenseless, letting you lead me by the nose. This time around, I'm not that same fool from before. Just move when you're told. Stop all this backtalk. He moved to grab me as he spoke. I sidestepped his grasp. Are you law enforcement? Where's your body cam? Does your protocol permit violent conduct? They never expected me to fight back, and my sudden move caught them completely off guard. I raised my voice in, "Which precinct are you from? I'd like to see if your actions comply with regulations." With that, I pointed my phone at them and started recording. The two froze momentarily before simultaneously covering their faces and backing away in perfect sync. I stepped forward, trying to pry their hands away from their faces. "What's the matter? Scared? You know the procedures aren't proper, don't you? Or are you just outright fakes? Talk. Who the hell gave you the nerve to impersonate law enforcement in a society governed by law? My voice boomed in the second half of the sentence, causing nearby classmates to stop and watch the drama unfold. Something's off. Those shoulder insignias on their uniforms don't look right. I agree. They don't even have the mandatory body cameras for field operations. What kind of clown show is this? With the crowd growing larger, the dean had no choice but to bark, "Back to class, all of you. This isn't a spectator sport." With that, he casually shoved aside an approaching male student. As luck would have it, this happened to be Eli, our school's infamous troublemaker who barely scrapes by on attendance but aces every exam. The professors at school had a love-hate relationship with him, renowned for his brilliant mind but equally infamous for his fiery temper. To make matters worse, he was merely passing by with no intention to spectate, yet the frantic dean carelessly shoved him into a nearby pillar. That instantly lit the fuse of his temper. What's the meaning of cornering a young girl like this? This isn't how proper law enforcement works. You lot don't even look like legitimate officers. Hold on, let me call some proper law enforcement officers to verify your credentials. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and started dialing. Seeing things escalating, the academic dean quickly stepped forward and grabbed his phone. Our colleagues may have been a bit heavy-handed. There's no need to make such a scene on campus. Oh sure, you can bring your own people. But when we students ask for fairness, suddenly that's not allowed. Did you personally write these laws or something? Other students joined in the jeering. Exactly, if this was legit, what are you so afraid of? No kidding, look how shifty they're acting. Total frauds. Since when do law enforcement officers dress like street thugs? The dean visibly tensed up. I won't argue with you. The school has its procedures. Let's adjourn for today and revisit this tomorrow. That last part was directed at me, but before the next day even arrived, the situation had already blown up. An insider leaked on the campus forum that the seller of this Lotus card was actually from our school. Everyone knew about Cora's notorious exploits. Initially, some speculated it might be Cora, but those comments got deleted almost instantly, yet one particular comment got upvoted to the top. This can't be a coincidence, something this rare appearing twice in our district. I bet it's Mr. Kane's card. Maybe someone close to Cora swapped it. Nailed it. Could it be Cora's roommate? Did you guys hear about the commotion outside the lecture hall today? The dean came with security and escorted a student out. Yeah, I heard something happened. Who got taken away? It was Saren, Cora's roommate. Holy shit, you nailed it. Wait, that's actually Saren. She always seemed so proper. Who knew she'd stoop this low morally? Disgusting. Stealing something someone else found. She's literally setting Cora up to take the fall while she reaps the benefits. What a snake. Can't believe our school has this kind of trash. An absolute disgrace to the institution and society at large. A single one of those cards could cover a house down payment. The greed is unreal, acting all prim and proper while pulling shady stunts behind the scenes. The next day, completely unaware of anything amiss, I went to class as usual. Along the way, I kept sensing intermittent burning stares. Pretending to walk on, I suddenly whirled around and caught a girl mid-gesture, her accusatory finger still pointing at me. I stepped right up to her, locking eyes. "I'm certain we've never met," I said. "What exactly are you accusing me of?" The girl flinched at first, but her friend coolly retorted, "How dare you play innocent? You know exactly what you did, you thieving opportunist." A suspicion crept into my mind. A thief. Cut the act. It's all over the campus forum. Everyone knows you stole those cards from Cora's found collection and tried to sell them for cash. I can't stand hypocrites like you, putting on this aloof, virtuous act while who knows what shady things you've done for money behind the scenes. Exactly. The girl I just confronted finally snapped out of her daze. Do you think your parents would drop dead from rage if they knew you're pretending to go to school while doing God knows what disgusting things behind their backs? Never thought I'd be on the receiving end of these accusations in this lifetime, but it's fine. It's not like I haven't heard this crap before. Only this time, I won't just let it slide. With a cold sneer, I popped open the lid of my lemonade and dumped the entire contents over the two people across from me. Itch, what the hell? Are you insane? Your foul mouths needed washing out. That was my 18 yen lemonade. Consider it a free brain cleanse. You'll believe any nonsense people feed you. Did your parents forget to pick up your brains at the hospital when you were born? That would explain why you're so damn stupid. Aw, I'm reporting you to the counselor, I sneered. What good would a counselor do? Even the academic dean is in cahoots with them, if that's how it is. Let's escalate this further. I want to see if they can really cover the sky with one hand. With that, I took out my phone and dialed 110 right in front of them. Hello, I'd like to report a crime. Someone's falsely accusing me of theft. I hung up and immediately snapped a photo of the two stunned faces. The camera shutter seemed to snap them back to reality. Why are you taking our picture? Which department are you from? Names. Why the hell should we tell you? The intensity remained, though the voice gradually faded. Keep silent if you want. Post it on the campus forum if you prefer. I've already called the police. Uniformed officers will come for you soon enough. Don't hide anything, and don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me exactly what you heard, what you saw, where you heard it, where you saw it, the complete truth. Then I strode away, leaving them standing there dumbfounded. The uniformed officers arrived at the dean's office just as I got there. I barged into the dean's office without ceremony, only to find Kane and Cora casually seated on the sofa. Perfect timing, everyone's here, saves me the trouble of rounding people up. I ushered the uniformed personnel inside and plopped myself unceremoniously on the desk. Saren, what the hell are you up to now? This is my office. Not some back alley for every stray cat and dog to wander into. Get the hell out. Why can they come but I can't? Besides, I'm here on actual business. Kane glanced at the two uniformed figures before turning to me. Saren, are these your hired extras? They don't exactly scream professionalism, and pulling such a cheap stunt in front of the teacher. No wonder Cora said you're a real piece of work behind closed doors. The moment those words were spoken, I caught the two uniformed officers' faces darkening in my peripheral vision, as expected. A dog's eyes only see other dogs, never people. The uniformed officer who'd been insulted sprang up instantly, pulling out his badge from his pocket. Good day, we're officers from District A Station. Here are our badges. You can verify our personal information on them. Then a comrade pointed to the body camera on their shoulder. This is a body-worn camera to monitor our law enforcement procedures. The moment those words were spoken, the remaining three people in the office visibly changed their expressions. Cora and Kane stared at the two before them, their faces darkening noticeably. Saren, what's the meaning of this? Bringing people here? What are you trying to pull? This is the academic office, not some place for your shenanigans. So you finally came to your senses and called the authorities to turn yourself in. Return that card now, and you might still redeem yourself. Cora tilted her chin up with an air of arrogance. I scoffed coldly. What makes you think I stole the card? You're the only one in the dorm who knew about this card besides me, and I told you from the start how valuable it was. No wonder you were so quick to dismiss such a valuable card. You were planning to swap it and frame me all along. If Mr. Kane hadn't trusted me, I'd be taking the fall for your scheme right now. Exactly. The dean turned to the officers and said, Saren's the one who stole the cards. Take her into custody. The officer ignored their remarks and approached me instead, saying, Excuse the interruption. Just to confirm, the complainant is Ms. Saren, correct? And this is regarding a defamation case, right? Yes, that's correct, I said. I've already sent the website URL to your tech team. They should have cracked it by now. Yes, we've traced it. The IP address doesn't belong to your school. It's from a residential area nearby. Hearing this, the academic director straightened up with visible relief, his voice growing louder. I told you it wasn't done by anyone from our school, but it was actually a student, a girl named Cora. Do you know her? I glanced at Cora and said, That's her. Cora, the uniformed officer clearly didn't expect their target to be right in front of them. Miss Cora, we'll need you to come with us for questioning. Panicking, she suddenly grabbed Kane's arm. It wasn't me, you said. Shut up. Kane snapped abruptly. Go with them for now. It's fine. I'll come get you later. Cora flinched at Kane's sharp tone, hesitating and refusing to stand. Kane gave her shoulder a reassuring pat. You'll be safe. Trust me. I'll pick you up soon. With no other choice, she bit her lip and prepared to stand up. Just then, two uniformed officers burst into the office and approached Kane. Kane, correct. You're under arrest for embezzlement. We've got solid evidence against you. Cora stood by, utterly stunned. Then a man in his 50s walked in through the door. Kane, how many years have you been my assistant? Kane stood up with a deathly pale face, utterly speechless. I trusted you completely, and trusting all our domestic operations to you. And how do you repay me? Embezzling tens of millions in kickbacks while playing king of the hill back home. Do you really think I'm too old to notice, even at my age? Dealing with you is child's play. The dean stood dumbfounded by the scene unfolding before him. though he'd already pieced together the gist of the situation. Is your identity fake? Kane shot him a glance and said to the man, Boss, I've been by your side for 8 years, but ask yourself, have you ever treated me right? We're both assistants, so why does Soren get to accompany you abroad while I'm stuck here handling this mess? The man addressed as boss replied. You stayed because your daughter begged me in tears not to let you leave. I set up a trust fund for you, even earmarked tuition money for your daughter's overseas education. The trust transfers directly to you both after she turns 18. If you do your job properly, this is on you, nobody to blame but your own greed. You have a daughter. Cora shrieked from the side. You lied to me, you used me, so what if I used you? You were just after my money anyway. Youth for cash, fair trade. The words hit Cora like a physical blow. Staggering, she sobbed. But I genuinely loved you. Cut the crap. What you loved were designer bags, luxury clothes, and that glamorous lifestyle. And you, he pointed at the dean before turning to the uniformed officers. He took $1 million bribe from me, promising to find a scapegoat. Never expected that scapegoat to be this clever. Now that the truth's out, I'll take my punishment, but none of you are getting out clean. Kane's expression remained neutral, yet I sensed an unsettling calm madness radiating from him. When Cora was led away, she was practically dragged, her face ghostly pale, her limp body swaying unsteadily with every forced step. Mr. Kane, we'll need you to come with us to give a statement, so I followed them toward the school gate. Just as we were about to get in the car, a figure lunged from beneath the gate's tree and stabbed Kane. Aya! Kane screamed. But upon recognizing the attacker's face, he let out a hollow laugh. The face pressed against the ground was the last thing I saw before dying in my past life. The truck driver who killed me, and just now, I heard Cora call him Dad, so that's how it is. I always thought my death in that car crash was just an accident, never imagined everything would come full circle at this very moment. The pinned man kept screaming hysterically. You bastard, Kane, you deceived my daughter. I later learned he originally came for me. Cora had told him that my death would end everything and secure her a bright future, but midway, he received an anonymous text revealing Kane had lied about being married to trick Cora. Blinded by rage, he turned his fury on Kane. In this second chance at life, everyone reaped what they sowed, walking their destined paths. As I stepped out of the precinct, a teenager on a motorcycle waved at me. It was Eli. Heading back to campus. I'll give you a ride. Sounds good. I think my new life is just beginning. The end. Story 2. Grace. You can't just stand by and do nothing. The end of the world had come, and there was my husband, with his mistress, begging me to open the door. I looked at them coldly. Just the day before, I was devastated. Now, there were 3 layers of doors between us. All I had to do was open the door, and they would be saved. But, I was thinking, should I just stand here and watch them being devoured alive, or should I go back inside and listen to them being devoured alive? 1. The apocalypse happened a month ago, and 3 days prior to its start, I had already transformed my grandmother's house, located at the urban-rural interface and with its own yard, into a fortress for the end times. It wasn't that I had foreseen it, nor did I receive any advance warnings. It was because I had been reborn, 2 months ago. Holding the freshly issued divorce papers and wiping away tears, I boarded a high-speed train back to my hometown. I never thought my husband, Carter, would betray me. Carter and I were college classmates, the golden boy and girl of our class, and we were the only couple from our class who ended up getting married. After getting married, I gave up a career as a judge, for which I had passed the exams, to follow him to Beijing and become an elementary school teacher, supporting his career. But even with all these sacrifices, Carter still betrayed me. His mistress sent me a video through Carter's Instagram, and it wasn't the type of exercise one might assume from the word alone. Watching that woman under Carter, cheerfully moaning, felt like the sky was falling down. I was so angry I smashed my phone. The next day, after buying a new one, I sent Carter the divorce papers. After the 1-month cooling-off period required for divorce had passed, I swiftly headed to Beijing to officially get the divorce papers with Carter. However, on the train ride back to my hometown, the apocalypse erupted. I died on that train, but luckily, I was reborn a month earlier. The second time I received that video, I didn't smash my phone. Instead, I calmed down for 5 minutes and then sent Carter the divorce papers. Then I told him to give me $3 million in cash, to sever all ties, and that I wouldn't ask for a single penny more after that. Carter and I had 2 properties in Beijing, one worth about 3 million and the other about 5 million. I had just finished paying off the last installment of 500,000 on the more expensive property during our first divorce. Out of guilt, Carter had given me the property worth 5 million, keeping the one worth 3 million for himself. This time, I only wanted 3 million in cash to turn my grandmother's house into a fortress for the end times. My grandmother's house was situated at the urban-rural interface and had a yard of over an acre with a 3-story detached house. I designed 3 layers of protection for the fortress. The first layer was made of stainless steel. I used a giant octagonal cage to enclose the entire yard and the house. The second layer consisted of bulletproof glass, 35 millimeters thick, installed in 3 layers. This layer wasn't just to keep out zombies, but also people. As I feared that armories might be overtaken during the apocalypse, the third layer was the original wall around my grandmother's house. Since it was a self-built house, the walls were very thick, and I installed bulletproof glass in the decorative windows. Finally, the walls of the house itself, originally built with high alkaline resistance blue bricks, were already quite thick, so I reinforced them when I've reinforced only the doors and windows at home. I replaced all the exterior doors with 12-centimeter thick heavy copper doors and switched all the windows to bulletproof glass, which I covered with one-way viewing film and added a layer of anti-theft netting outside. After setting up the outer defenses, the next task was to remodel the courtyard, to maximize the use of the courtyard even if the first 3 layers of protection were breached. I divided my grandmother's small courtyard into 4 sections according to the cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Each section was separated by railings as high as walls with an added layer of steel mesh. In the center, I built a corridor that provided access to these 4 sections. There were doors between the corridor and each section, and additional doors along the corridor itself, ensuring that if one section was compromised, the others could still be used. After remodeling the courtyard, I stocked a small pond in the northeast corner of my grandmother's house with fish and bought several servings of fish feed. By the end of all these modifications, I had almost run out of money. Actually, after Carter agreed to the divorce settlement, he only transferred 6 million yuan. He mentioned that he didn't have that much cash on hand and had to sell some stocks to come up with the 6 million yuan. He also said he would give me the rest next year. At that time, I just smiled, hoping he would still be alive to pay me next year. All the initial expenses totaled 4 million yuan. When I was left with 200,000 yuan, planning to budget and stock up on supplies, I quickly realized it was far from enough. Just when I was most worried about money, my grandparents gave me their retirement savings of 600,000 yuan. Originally, I built the fortress to ensure smooth progress and to get my grandparents on board with the plan. I told them I was divorced and planning to start my own business by turning their home into a unique bar, which would be our source of livelihood. Although my grandfather was skeptical about the success of my plan, he supported me fully. Later, seeing how worried I was about money, he gave me all the retirement money he and my grandmother had saved over the years, calling it an investment. With this 600,000 yuan, I installed solar panels on the entire roof. In a post-apocalyptic world without electricity, we would have to rely solely on these solar panels. I also bought a generator and stocked up on some diesel, but those were only for special circumstances, as the noise from the engine could attract zombies. After installing the solar panels, I started stocking up on supplies with the remaining money. I stored rooms full of flour and rice, instant noodles and self-heating hot pot meals, various kinds of smoked and dried meats, and another room half filled with various seeds and the other half with dried bamboo shoots, kelp, and pickled vegetables. Since these items needed to be stored indoors, I didn't calculate by unit but by the space available at home. To store these supplies, I also had shelves installed in advance in these rooms for easy access. After stocking up, the money was quickly spent, but there was still much more to buy, so in the end, I brashly took out a loan of 400,000 yuan, thinking that in an apocalypse, money would surely not need to be repaid. Being reborn also felt like catching the last straw of society. But what I never expected was that half a month into the apocalypse, I still received a message demanding payment. Really, the apocalypse might come, but the demands for payment never stop. However, I haven't paid back that money yet. With the 400,000 I got from the loan, I stocked up on supplies like cooking oil, charcoal, natural gas, and more. filling up an entire room. The remaining money was used to stockpile everyday essentials. Cold weather clothing, bedding, and so on. At the very end, I also gathered some books and snacks for my daughter. With this patchwork sum of over 6 million, I created a fortress for the apocalypse. In this fortress, there's a house, farmland, a mountain spring, and even a small pond. Grandpa is somewhat of a farmer. He has been farming since his retirement, and it's been 20 years now. In this apocalypse, I can still live a life somewhat reminiscent of a rural idyll. Over this month since the apocalypse started, that's exactly how we've been getting by. Every day, I check on the fish in the pond, do some farming, though the end of days is terrifying. The days pass by quickly. Now, the hollow vegetables Grandpa planted on the day the apocalypse arrived are almost ready for their first harvest. The rice he planted on that small plot of land has grown over a foot tall, and the fish fry released into the pond have fattened up. The grapefruits on the tree in the northeast corner will be ready to eat in just over a month, but what I never expected was for my ex-husband to show up, and with his mistress no less. My ex-husband shouldn't even be in my hometown, he's supposed to be in Beijing. I came because it's summer vacation. Every summer, I bring my daughter back to my hometown to stay with my grandparents. When I received the small video, I was at their house. After finalizing our divorce, summer wasn't over yet. And with my daughter still here, it was natural for me to return. However, this isn't Carter's hometown, nor where he works or went to university. In this city, the only connection he has is with me, but I don't believe he would bring his mistress here to chase after me. So, my first question was, "What are you doing here?" Carter seemed taken aback for a moment and glanced at his mistress. I too looked at his mistress. This was the first time I saw her in person. Though I'd seen her before in a small video, she looked innocent and sweet in her clothes, like a harmless beauty. Now, amidst the apocalypse and pregnant, she still looked frail and delicate. Unlike me, I've gained 5 pounds even with the world ending. I remember her name seemed to be Chloe, a nice name, and she looked like a decent person, but her actions didn't match up. Silent, my ex-husband struggled to find his words. Then Chloe spoke up, "Sister, didn't you and Carter agree to get the divorce certificate on July 25th, but Carter called you on July 24th, and after trying all day, couldn't reach you. He had called Grandma before, who mentioned you were acting unusually, working on building a bar, worried." I scoffed. "You call me sister and refer to my grandma as yours, miss. Even though it's the apocalypse, we can't just randomly claim relatives. I did have a sister once, but she died nearly 30 years ago. Never even made it out of our mother's womb. By now, the grass over her grave is probably taller than you. Besides her, I have no other sisters, so watch how you address people." Chloe seemed to suddenly realize her mistake, looked up at me and then at Carter, and nervously bowed her head. She leaned closer to Carter, who embraced her and gave me a reproachful look. I'm all too familiar with that expression on Carter's face. It's the one he gets whenever something he cherishes is damaged or disrespected by me. Now, the person in his arms, he treasures them greatly. I rolled my eyes at the sky. This pair of deceitful lovers, clearly, they came after me because I didn't answer their calls, worried that I wouldn't go through with the divorce, chasing me down to my hometown to pressure me into it. After all, both parties can obtain a divorce certificate from their registered residence, and yet, such a shameless excuse turns into a noble concern when it comes out of their mouths. It's almost laughable, watching Chloe almost trying to merge her entire body into Carter's embrace. I suddenly have a newfound admiration for her ability, such a shameless excuse, and yet she speaks it with such delicate, gentle words. I could never talk like that. No wonder Carter has already moved on to creating the next generation with her. I can't be bothered to argue with them anymore. Seeing the doors still between us, I grabbed my grandmother's hand and turned to walk back into the house. My yard has 3 doors for security reasons. The outermost door is secured with an automatic lock, the second with a traditional key lock, and the third with a keypad lock. They've only gotten through the first door. This door protects them from zombies, but they haven't really entered our yard yet. The first door is only half a door away from the second. Now, the zombies, drawn by the scent of blood, have arrived. If they don't stay close to the second door, which is bulletproof, the zombies can reach them easily. "Grace, can you please open the door? Chloe hasn't eaten in 2 days, Carter said urgently when he saw me turning around. His tone was soft, he was pleading with me. He's always been able to bend when necessary. What's that got to do with me? I turned around, looking at Carter seriously. More and more zombies gathered outside the yard. I had installed a stainless steel mesh that was not very large, but zombies, not feeling pain, become frenzied when they smell blood. Carter had a wound on his hand, but it didn't look like a bite. Now, the zombies continuously gnawed at my stainless steel mesh. Some, disregarding the mesh, had their flesh scraped off to the bone by the mesh but still tried to reach through to grab the two people. Seeing the bare bones, Chloe, terrified, suddenly threw herself into Carter's arms. Calling him brother, she called Carter brother, a term I used to use too. I realized it was not exclusive to me. Carter used to tell me that it was a nickname only I could use. Huh, what a deceitful man. It's also the first time I've seen so many zombies. Although the apocalypse has been going on for over a month, there aren't many people in the suburbs, so there are naturally fewer zombies. This fortress has triple protection. But we usually stay inside the house, trying not to make noise, afraid of attracting zombies. Seeing so many zombies also made me a bit panicked, and I pulled my grandmother back a few steps, thinking I was about to leave. Carter quickly spoke up. Grace, I'm sorry for what I did, but you wouldn't just stand by and watch us die, right? I didn't step back this time. What a typical scoundrel's line, using moral blackmail. I'm almost amused by it. I glanced at Chloe, who was almost collapsing into Carter's arms, and said, You are not me. How would you know what I can or can't do? I can. Carter, I thought you would understand that the most I owe you right now is to leave this first door open, not to watch you die. After saying that, I turned around and walked away. Grace, Carter yelled in fury, pounding on my bulletproof glass wall. Grace, you can't be so cruel. I stopped in my tracks. Did he really not know how cruel I could be? How many zombies would his banging attract? I paused, then turned around and spoke slowly, emphasizing each word. Carter, since you've already called me cruel, I might as well live up to the name, right? In these apocalyptic times, let's forget about humanity. How about you make a choice? Throw her out, and I'll let you in, or do you both want to leave? Carter was stunned, not expecting such a question. Chloe beside him was also taken aback. Then she turned to Carter. Her eyes filled with pitiful pleading. Carter looked at me again, his eyes nearly shooting flames. Hey, what are you saying, girl? My grandmother suddenly patted my hand, went out, and opened the second door. Once they entered through the second door, Carter and Chloe were in the yard, but they couldn't get into our house. I was completely baffled and looked at my grandmother. The first door had been opened by my grandmother, but at that time, she thought it was the apocalypse, and Carter, worried about his daughter, had struggled all the way from Beijing to find Ella. Although I couldn't believe that Carter and Chloe, who was pregnant, had traveled 10,000 miles from Beijing to my hometown during the apocalypse, I still held a slight hope that this father cared about his child. Turns out, he didn't. They had come chasing after me for a divorce. Moreover, due to this, they had luckily lingered here for a month. Just thinking about it was annoying. I had already placed my hand on the electric switch of the first door. Regardless of Carter's choice, I was ready to accommodate him, of course. If he really chose to abandon his lover and come in, I would still throw him out, because that would only prove he was scum to the core, and he would abandon anyone in this courtyard under similar circumstances in the future. But my grandmother didn't let him make that choice. After letting Carter and Chloe in, she pulled me into the house. I shook off my grandmother's hand on the way and went into the house by myself. I really couldn't understand why my grandmother suddenly became so saintly at that moment, especially since on the 10th day of the zombie outbreak, a neighbor who lived not far from our house and had been friends with my grandmother for decades, came running for help. My grandmother watched from inside as she was surrounded by zombies, remembering my rule that saints in the apocalypse must die. And she resolutely refrained from opening the door, watching her old friend get bitten without intervening. I also didn't understand why. The first time I got angry about a sports video and smashed my phone, it was my grandmother who helped me pick up the pieces. When I cried alone in the room, it was my grandmother who hugged me all afternoon. The second time, although I didn't smash my phone, I threw myself into designing and fortifying the fortress, but still. My grandmother would often check on me at night, fearing I might be crying secretly. She knew I was heartbroken. Are you angry? My grandmother asked, bringing over a cup of tea. I pushed the tea away without saying a word. Seeing that I didn't speak, my grandmother sat next to me, took my hand into hers, and asked, Girl, do you think the chaos outside will end soon? I don't know, I replied curtly. My grandmother sighed. you don't know, and Grandma doesn't know either. You've enclosed this place, shielded it inside and out, prepared so much food and supplies, and even learned gardening with your grandpa. Girl, you think it won't get better, right? I was taken aback. Actually, since being reborn, I had never really considered this question. I was constantly in a state of high alert and never had the time to think about it. Grandma and Grandpa are old, and my daughter is only 5. Our family, in truth, is full of the old, weak, and sick. We have no advantages in this post-apocalyptic world. All I could rely on was this fortress, believing it to be infallible. I hope that this apocalypse, like every epidemic we have faced, will eventually end. I also hope that one morning, I'll wake up to news on the TV or on a phone announcing that the lockdown is lifted and the zombies have been eradicated. But now, it's been over a month since the apocalypse began. For the first 10 days, we still receive news and text messages telling people not to panic and to hide. Then, they started using phones to count the number of survivors nearby. Later, we lost water, electricity, and internet. After that, we began to see more and more zombies roaming around, with hardly any living people left. We used to be able to shout to our neighbors, but these days, the only heads popping out of the windows are zombies. Now, a whole month has passed, and we've stopped receiving any information from outside. I don't even know if our home is the last island of survival in this city, but apart from our family, there really are no other living people around. Seeing the look on my face, Grandma patted my hand. Girl, you think it won't get better, right? Grandma thinks so too. Girl, do you know, Grandma is 78 this year. That day, when I first saw your aunt turn into that horrific thing right in front of me, Grandma suddenly understood the term apocalypse you used. It felt like the sky had fallen. Grandma finally understood why you wanted to build such a strong cage. You wanted to protect us, protect our whole family. But Grandma is old. She squeezed my hand, which she held in hers, a gesture she made whenever she felt particularly sympathetic. I know, you want Grandma to live to be 100 years old. And Grandma wants that too. Grandma wants to be with you all the time, to grow old with you, to see Ella grow up, but it's not possible. It just isn't. Grandma will eventually pass away. Grandma smiled a little. Your grandpa and I are already halfway into the grave. We won't be able to be with you for long. Grandma, Ella can be with you. Grandma smiled again. But have you ever thought about what will happen to Ella after you grow old and pass away? This isn't just a temporary quarantine that ends in a few days, where you can still get updates about the outside world through a phone. She might have to stay here forever, alone, waking up every day without any news from the outside, waking up to this terrifying world every day. Girl, if it were you, how long could you last? I took a deep breath, a wave of despair washing over me. If it were just me alone, I have personally seen off each of my loved ones, and now, I live in this world of despair, devoid of family and any external information. The moment I open my eyes, monsters surround me, and I can't even scream because screaming would attract them. This is the world my daughter will face after we are all gone. I take a deep breath. Grandma pats my hand again and speaks with deep meaning. That girl has a child, right? Grandma looks at me. She has a little one, and that baby belongs to Ella's generation. It would be best if that baby could support Ella, even if they can't support each other. It's good for Ella to have someone alive to talk to. What do you think? Besides, it's an extra precaution. Carter can drive. If our house ever breaks down, having someone who can drive to take you all away would be essential. While I don't expect Carter to help me, and I really dislike both Carter and Chloe, Grandma is right. That child, I must leave as a backup plan for Ella. There, my dear. Grandma comes over and hugs my shoulders. Grandma didn't open the door right away. I was waiting to let you vent. Have you vented yet? If you've vented, there's no need to hold on to that anger. Getting angry only hurts yourself, not others. Hearing Grandma's words makes me feel a bit emotional. She allowed me to vent and thought of even the smallest kindness. And beyond that, she's thinking about what happens after she's gone. Everything she's planned is for me and Ella. I nod, embracing Grandma, my voice a bit hoarse. Grandma also hugs me and rocks me a bit, just like when I would fidget in her arms as a child. Okay, darling, the innermost door hasn't been opened yet. We still need to take time to understand people's hearts. For now, arrange for them to stay in the treehouse. Give them that favor, and take it slow. There's still plenty of time. I nod, take a deep breath, and walk outside. Outside, Carter is still standing at the entrance, guarding Chloe. I'm a bit surprised. I thought someone as flexible and tactful as Carter would have already taken Chloe to the treehouse, especially since Grandma had gestured towards it just before. In the northeast corner of our yard stands a large camphor tree. Initially, when I was remodeling the yard, I planned to cut it down because it would prevent the cage from fully enclosing the area, affecting the integrity of the cage. But Grandma said this tree was planted by her father, and it's been around for over 100 years. She couldn't bear to cut it down. In the end, I had no choice but to spend extra money to build a treehouse in it, and the cage was made separately, essentially creating a higher little cage just around the treehouse. After the treehouse was built, it became another refuge for us. If something unexpected happens to the house one day, the treehouse could offer us a place to hide. So, I also made some cabinets in the treehouse and stored some things there, just in case. But I didn't expect them to move in first. I point towards the treehouse. You guys stay in there. Carter glances at me, then at Chloe, who seems weak in his arms. Chloe, you have food. I leave without turning back. Really, some people just push their luck. I return to the house, where my daughter has just woken up from her nap. My daughter is now 5.5 years old, despite her innocent confusion, having lived through a catastrophic collapse of the world as we knew it overnight. She's matured a lot more than before. I've explained divorce to her, telling her about why mommy and daddy are living apart, and she hasn't asked about it since. But now, her father has returned with a woman, and honestly, I just don't know how to explain this situation. Men and women can bring such drama. I sighed deeply a few times, seeing I was upset. Grandma took my daughter to practice her reading. During these apocalyptic times, I've insisted on teaching my daughter to read. I hope that one day she'll be able to read books on her own. I've bought some on agricultural techniques, hoping that if one day there's no one else to guide her, she'll still be able to sustain herself through farming. Another reason is that, although I don't believe this apocalypse will end, I still hope for a better world someday. I want my daughter to be able to read and engage with the world when it eventually gets better. However, besides learning to read, another immediate priority is surviving. To survive, one must learn to farm, but for now, that's a lesson for me, not her. It was past 4 in the afternoon, with the sun inclining westward, as I followed Grandpa into the yard to farm because it wasn't dark yet and the zombies weren't as sensitive as they are at night. Also, it was cooler, perfect for finishing work before dinner. Currently, we still have ample supplies at home, so we primarily grow vegetables instead of staple crops. This time, Grandpa taught me to plant cabbages and chili peppers. As we planted, Grandpa explained that there are many types of cabbages: spring, summer, and autumn cabbages, and each type should be planted in its respective season, with each requiring different seeds. I listened intently, having never realized before how much knowledge was involved in farming. Grandpa shared that he felt a sense of achievement in helping build the country in his earlier years and now finds a similar feeling in dedicating his energy to farming. He expressed that the greatest sense of achievement for him comes from planting the seeds, watching the seedlings grow, watering, and fertilizing them. Observing the daily changes in the crops, he said, is like nurturing a person, and the joy of harvest brings even greater happiness. Laughing, I said I also enjoyed these feelings of joy. No wonder farming seemed like a natural talent. As Grandpa and I laughed, I suddenly felt someone watching us. Glancing towards the treehouse, I didn't see Carter, but I caught Chloe peeking out from a window. When she saw me looking, she quickly withdrew, her demeanor cautious and fearful. I snorted coldly, too indifferent to bother with her, and got ready to head inside. Chloe, when I hadn't met her, seemed quite audacious, considering she sent her videos to me without any reservations, apparently unafraid of what I might do with them. But upon meeting her, I realized she was all bark and no bite, quite frail, in fact, a perfect example of a clinging vine, just like her name suggests, a frail willow dependent on appearing weak to win over men's hearts and relying on them for survival. Dependence on men for protection is not my style. Unlike me, who relies on myself for everything from setting up the house to raising children. Carter has always been hands-off in our household. He actually used to enjoy being hands-off, appreciating a strong and capable wife like me. I'm not sure when his tastes changed. During dinner, my grandmother brought him half a fish. From upstairs, I saw Chloe wipe away a few tears and then smile. I have to admire how well my grandma manages these little acts of kindness. This half fish was actually leftover from the chicken we've been eating the past few days. No one wanted it. And it was about to be thrown out after being reheated several times. Seeing Chloe devour the fish, I guess she hadn't had meat for a while. I wonder how things are outside now, and how they've been managing to survive lately. I forgot to ask Carter when he came in today. I still need to find out more about what's happening outside. I'm trying to gauge whether there's still hope for the world to get better. What if, right, Carter truly loves Chloe, he didn't eat any of the fish himself. The next morning, my daughter was lying next to my bed. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was her saying, "Mommy, I love you," which just melted my heart. I kissed her chubby little face. I had insomnia last night, the first time since adapting to this post-apocalyptic life. From initial panic to adjustment, the first half of the night I was worried that Carter's breathing might attract zombies. So I stood by the window watching for a while. Thankfully nothing happened. The latter half of the night was due to the fact I couldn't sleep earlier, and without any sleepiness, I began to worry about my daughter's future. At night, I tend to get really emotional. Honestly, if it weren't for this post-apocalyptic world, although I wouldn't wish death upon an innocent child, I probably wouldn't have given Chloe a second glance. But now, I really hope she can be born safely and support my daughter, at least giving her someone to talk to in this apocalyptic world. When I left the house, Chloe and Carter hadn't gotten up yet. I don't know if it was their first peaceful sleep in this new world or if they also had insomnia and woke up late. I fed the fish in the yard for a while, then Carter came down. His hand was bandaged. "I do keep a first aid kit in my treehouse, Grace." "Thank you," Carter said, looking at me through the decorative window over the fence. "You really know how to be humble when needed. You didn't look at me like this yesterday." Carter's eyes flickered. "Yesterday, I thought you really wouldn't help." I laughed. "Don't get me wrong, I would indeed not help you. Same as now, it was my grandmother who helped you. She has a kind heart." Then, I glanced at the treehouse. Chloe had also gotten up, her eyes still sleepy, softly calling Carter, "Brother," in a tender voice. I immediately got goosebumps. She glanced at me, about to call me sister, probably remembering what I said yesterday. Then looked at Carter with a mix of guilt and sorrow. Carter glanced at Chloe and was about to head back to the treehouse. I was just about to call him to ask about the situation. Having waited so long, I couldn't just wait in vain. Then Carter came back. Ella, oh, she's doing well, eating well, sleeping well, and even learning to read every day." "Ella, did she ever mention me?" "Shortly after the apocalypse erupted, she did mention you. She asked me, 'Isn't Dad dead?'" Carter's face instantly darkened, but Ella really did ask that question. At first, I didn't know how to explain the changes in the world to her, but I soon realized that children are stronger than we think. She quickly came to her own understanding of the situation and stopped asking questions. However, one day, she was looking at the zombies outside the window and suddenly asked me if her dad was dead. I didn't answer her at the time because I believed it was true. When I was building the fortress, I planned to send a message to Carter hinting that he should stock up on supplies. Although he betrayed me, I still appreciated that he decisively gave me the money that allowed me to successfully build this apocalypse fortress to protect my family. But when I messaged him, it was Chloe who replied and then she blocked me. "Did you teach her that?" Carter's eyes were fiery with anger. "Do you think I needed to teach her that? A 5-year-old child, witnessing the world turning upside down overnight, is stronger and smarter than I imagined. Carter, she will grow up on her own." Carter looked suddenly like a defeated rooster. "Grace, I'm sorry." I smiled again. "Carter, although we are old classmates, we are divorced after all, and besides, your wife is here." I waved at Chloe in the treehouse. "It's probably better if we address each other by name, right?" Carter's gaze dimmed instantly. "Okay, sis," Chloe called out from the treehouse. Suddenly, I saw a kind of insecure tension in her eyes, a look I had never seen before in Chloe, who usually just nods along. "Your wife is calling you," I said with a half-smile to remind Carter. Unexpectedly, Carter became furious upon hearing this. "Grace, we haven't officially gotten our divorce papers yet. Legally, you are still my wife. I am your wife. Then who is that up there? Your lover?" I couldn't resist firing back. Chloe's face turned pale, but she didn't seem angry. Just on the verge of tears, Carter glanced at Chloe and fell silent. I stepped back from the window. "If you want the divorce papers, I have them. I'll get you one right away." Carter frowned, and I turned away with a smile. I really did have the divorce papers. I hadn't gone to Beijing to register our marriage. I bought them at a small store. which sold them by the dozen because they wouldn't sell them individually. I did it to fool my grandmother and to give myself an explanation. Never expecting to use it with Carter, I handed over the fake divorce paper intended to fool my grandmother to Carter. Now you have the divorce paper, I really don't have the marriage certificate here. Chloe's face turned green again in the treehouse. I smirked and was about to walk away when I remembered the main reason I was waiting for Carter here this morning, so I spoke again. By the way, how are things outside now? Carter paused. Then all expressions vanished from his face, leaving only a hollow despair. The whole city is gone. When I drove here, it was all zombies. A few days ago, when we could still contact the outside, they said Beijing was gone too. My heart sank, although I had anticipated this might be the case. The last time there was a TV signal, Beijing was still there. So how have you guys been managing to survive this past month? That day it broke out, we were luckily in a hotel, preparing to visit Ella. I bought her a lot of snacks. You survived in the hotel on snacks for a month. Carter nodded. Pretty lucky, huh? Carter nodded again. And how dare you think of bringing her to see me? Carter's expression darkened, and I smiled at him, gesturing for him to continue. Clenching his teeth and glancing at Chloe in the tree, Carter continued, I had called Grandma earlier, and after seeing your bar in the video, which looked pretty odd, it turned out just as I expected. Then, Carter suddenly looked into my eyes. Grace, how did you know the apocalypse was coming? I was taken aback. He was turning the tables on me, just as I expected from Carter's sharp mind. How could I have known? I just built a bar, and it happened to come in handy. This is a bar. What else would it be? I built it with an apocalyptic theme. Before it was finished, I used the bar to keep everyone guessing, and afterward, I stuck to that story. Carter still didn't believe me, but I lost interest in arguing. I had asked all I wanted to. Believe it or not, I have no duty to explain to you, nor did I plan to. You've changed. Yeah, anyone would change after dealing with a cheating husband and an apocalypse within a month. Both Carter and Chloe looked upset. Chloe glanced at me, but when she saw me looking back, she timidly lowered her head. I chuckled and turned away, feeling quite pleased. When Grandma let them in, I thought life would be miserable, facing my ex-husband and his lover every day. But now, I find that teasing them a bit actually feels quite refreshing. They don't talk back much, probably because they rely on us to survive now. The supplies in the treehouse aren't abundant. Without our help, they'd be in trouble. Life isn't so bad after all. Days indeed pass quickly. The pomelos on the trees ripened, and the lotuses in the pond matured. The cabbages and chili peppers that Grandpa and I planted are sprouting. Carter came in to help with some heavy work a few times, digging up lotuses and pruning the pomelo trees, which have grown too tall and might damage the net on top. He even came into our house to help clean the chicken droppings in the basement. To ensure we have fresh meat, I raised fish, chickens, and ducks. The chickens and ducks are noisy, which could attract zombies, so I dug 2 basements at home to keep these animals. With Carter's help, the farm work in the yard has become much easier. Grandpa initially refused to let Carter help, disliking his behavior. After cheating, he still had the audacity to come to his ex-wife with his lover. Grandpa believed that if he were in Carter's place, he'd rather die outside. I told Grandpa that not everyone has his integrity. Some people aren't so noble. Now, it's quite nice to have an extra pair of hands always ready to help, just like having another neighbor in this apocalyptic world. Carter is very diligent, always ready to help with any heavy work. As usual, Grandma would give fish and meat and some small favors to Chloe, and Chloe would often pull Grandma into a tearful hug. Seeing Grandma becoming increasingly sympathetic toward Chloe each day made me a bit jealous, but then Grandma told me that she initially regretted raising me to be so independent, capable of solving everything on my own. Such a character could be a disadvantage in a marriage. She thought the art of marriage involves learning to show weakness appropriately. With someone like Carter, giving him a sense of dependency would make him feel more significant in the family. However, I never learned to depend on him, so in the end, he found the sense of dependency elsewhere and brought home a daughter flower. In normal times, a daughter flower can survive because it can always find something to cling to, but in a post-apocalyptic world where support is hard to come by, the daughter flower could die at any moment. Grandma is happy that she raised you to be like a tree. In this world, you have become your own support, not just for yourself but also for Ella, and for Grandma and Grandpa. Grandma's words eased half of the knot in my heart. Who would prefer to be like grass, dependent on others, when you can sustain yourself. Just when everyone in our family had firmly accepted Chloe as the daughter flower, something happened. That day, after finishing chores with Grandpa in the morning, I was so tired that I went straight back to my room to rest. When I woke up, I saw Ella and Chloe standing outside the second floor door. Chloe was clutching Ella's arm, and Ella's hand was just a foot away from a small zombie, nearly as tall as her. I was terrified and scrambled out, rushing to the bulletproof door. Thankfully, just in the nick of time, the little zombie almost grasped Ella's hand. I pushed Ella through the bulletproof door and then harshly slapped Chloe. "What are you trying to do? Hurt her? I might as well help you achieve that." I was about to push Chloe toward the fence when a hand stopped me. The hand pulled Chloe inside the bulletproof door and shielded her. It was Carter. Seeing Carter defend Chloe chilled my heart. Ella was his own daughter, yet he chose to protect Chloe. "Grace, what are you doing?" Carter scolded me. I pulled Ella up, scoffed coldly, and walked away. I didn't even want to hear him out. He didn't deserve an explanation. "Brother, it's okay. As long as Ella is safe, let's go back." Just now, Grace pushed me by accident. I was surprised that Chloe spoke before I did. I was also stunned by her ability to twist the truth. She was clearly the one who put Ella in danger by pulling her towards the zombie, and now she was making it seem like Ella went towards the zombie on her own. I turned around, furious at Carter, and slapped him too. Carter was stunned by my slap. I spoke to him in the fiery tone he used to use on me. "Are you still protecting her? This is my house. Do you believe I would open the door and throw you all out?" Carter clenched his teeth. His gaze darkened. He pulled Chloe to a safer spot, glanced at my position, and then pulled me back, closing the second door. His pull calmed me a bit, and I softened my tone slightly. "Carter, do you know why I hit her? Because she was about to feed Ella's hand to a zombie." Carter's eyes flickered, and Chloe immediately denied it behind him. "No, brother, that's not true." At that moment, Grandma and Grandpa also arrived. Hearing the noise, seeing Grandma, Chloe immediately adopted a pitiful and aggrieved demeanor. "Grandma, brother, it was Ella who wanted to go out and touch that child. I was pulling her back." "Grace, you misunderstood me. What's going on, girl?" Although Grandma stood by my side, her gaze lingered on Chloe's pitiful expression. I shielded Ella behind me, feeling a chill. "Carter, Ella doesn't have the key to the second door. The third gate in our yard is equipped with a fingerprint lock." When it was time to register fingerprints, Ella happened to be there, so I registered one for her too. Thus, Ella can open the third gate. Sometimes, she would sneak out to meet Carter without telling me. I wasn't happy about it, but didn't interfere either. After all, Carter is still her father, though an incompetent one, barely deserving of the title Dad, but he is still biologically related. Only a key can open the second door. And Ella doesn't have one, but Chloe does. Chloe got her key from her grandmother a month ago. Chloe usually doesn't like going out, but recently, she said her child was getting older and needed daily exercise. The space beyond the second door is rather narrow, not allowing much room for movement, so she asked her grandmother for the key to the second door. Outside the second door, "As long as we don't make too much noise, zombies really won't gather around." Her portrayal of a pitiful creature like daughter was very successful, so her grandmother gave her the key. Looking at the little zombie outside, he was about Ella's height, seemingly just a kid from a neighboring village. He had even played with Ella once. I remember, he was also 5 years old. I had once asked Grandma to send messages in the village Instagram group, urging people to stock up under the pretext of a pandemic, but ultimately, some couldn't escape the apocalypse. Now, this child, his eyes void of light, his clothes hanging off him like tattered rags, silent and beast-like. I took a deep breath, trembling as I crouched down, hugging my Ella tightly, burying my head in her embrace, breathing in before I could relax. Thankfully, my daughter still has warmth, still has life. I do have the key, but, Chloe, unable to clarify, suddenly turned to Ella helplessly. "Ella, tell your mom, did you go out on your own or did Auntie drag you out?" Others couldn't see her expression clearly, but from my angle, I could see the intimidation in her eyes, not the pitiful look she had when she looked at us earlier. When she looked at Ella, it was full of coercion. I blocked her, holding Ella in my arms. "Ella, tell Mom, what exactly happened?" Ella glanced at Chloe, then hid from her, sobbing as she threw herself into my arms. But she still spoke. "Mom, I went out on my own. Auntie pulled me." I glanced at Chloe, unable to believe it. The intimidation in Chloe's eyes was gone, replaced by a look of grievance and tearful eyes. I was not satisfied, took several deep breaths, and pulled Ella aside. Chloe didn't move, but Carter tried to follow. I glared at Carter, and he didn't come any closer. Ella, don't be afraid, just tell me what happened, and that's how it will be. I pulled Ella to a position with her back to Chloe, ensuring she couldn't threaten Ella anymore. Mom, Ella looked at me and lowered her head. Chen Chen had a butterfly hairpin. I liked that hairpin. I glanced at the little zombie outside. Indeed, he had a small hairpin in his hand, but it was smeared with blood. Mom, I knew that being bitten was dangerous, but I wouldn't let Chen Chen bite me. I would be very careful, said Ella, lowering her head in silence for a moment as if recalling something before looking up at me again. Mom always said lying is wrong. Indeed, it wasn't Aunt Chloe who took me out. I looked at Grace in astonishment and then looked away. I had wronged her. Then I hugged Ella again. All right, Mom understands, but Ella, you must remember from now on, not just being bitten, those zombies Mom mentioned, they are no longer like you, being grabbed, touched, or bitten, it's all dangerous. Do you understand? Ella burrowed into my arms, nodding her head heavily. Mom, I understand. All right, no more mistakes in the future. My tone was firm, not just towards Ella, but towards Chloe as well. However, my posture, head bowed, revealed my guilt. It's just my nature not to bow easily. Seeing me weakened, Carter stepped forward as if to seek justice for Chloe. At that moment, Grandma stepped in. First, she gave me a reproachful look, then smilingly took Chloe's hand and said, since it was all a misunderstanding, Chloe, you are our family's great benefactor. Ella, thank your Aunt Chloe. Come on in, everyone. Grandma has prepared a feast to treat you all. How about that? Thank you, Aunt Chloe, Ella said sweetly. Chloe didn't move but looked at me, waiting for my response. I glanced at her, my eyes full of remorse, and took the opportunity Grandma provided to smooth things over, somewhat awkwardly saying, let's have dinner. Chloe sighed, cautiously took Carter's hand, and followed Grandma, who was leading Ella. Before entering, she gave me a look that had an ambiguous meaning. I couldn't decipher it all, but I did detect a hint of smugness, a look not commonly seen in her eyes. But right now, I had no interest in guessing her thoughts. I just wanted to find a quiet place to settle my thoughts. I sighed and followed them inside. Previously, Carter had gone through the hallway to the basement to clean up chicken droppings, but they had not together entered the yard, and entering the house was a first for them. Grandma's house was large, a rural self-built home, designed for spaciousness and comfort, with 4 rooms on each floor. We had reserved 2 bedrooms on the second floor, and the first floor had a bathroom, kitchen, and living room. The rest of the spaces, including the second floor bathroom, I had converted for storage. Though the house was full, it was still much better than a cramped treehouse. Upon entering, Chloe saw the sofa and couldn't help but admire it eagerly. Forgetting her decorum, she quickly sat down due to her pregnancy, realizing we were all watching her. She seemed to remember her manners and awkwardly smiled at Grandma and Grandpa, who looked somewhat displeased. Grandma, your sofa looked so comfortable that I couldn't help sitting down, she said. Grandma sighed. Ah, you've been through a lot. It's okay, sit down, you're our guests. I'll go cook. Girl, since Chloe saved Ella today, you serve the tea. I poured a glass of water for Chloe and Carter. After turning around, I headed upstairs. Today, I just didn't feel like talking to them. At dinner, Grandma prepared a large table of dishes. Deliberately trying to ease the tension, Chloe and Carter didn't let her down either. The meal went by superficially harmonious. Watching how affectionately Chloe called Grandma, I suddenly realized that Chloe, like a daughter flower, had a stronger survival instinct than I had imagined. She could cling to anyone when necessary, not just men. Like now, she had latched onto Grandma. Although I knew that Grandma might be acting kindly because of the baby in Chloe's womb, I could also tell that through their time together, Grandma didn't despise her from the bottom of her heart like Grandpa did. After dinner, Chloe asked Grandma many questions about pregnancy care, and by the end, she was tearful again. Grandma, my stomach hurt badly yesterday. I was a bit scared. It's all right. Giving birth is a hurdle every woman must face. I'll be there to help you deliver. I used to be a military medic. Chloe nodded, looking pitiful. Ah, what's wrong? My stomach hurts again. It hurts again. Where? Chloe curled up on the sofa, appearing to be in severe discomfort. Seeing her like this, Carter also became anxious. although he usually didn't initiate conversations with Grandma. This time he urgently called her. "Grandma, she's been like this for a few days. Could you please check on her?" Grandma quickly examined Chloe, comforting her with a touch, and then glanced at me before turning back and gritting her teeth. "Why don't you stay here tonight?" It was a definitive statement from Grandma. Grandma, Chloe hesitated, waiting to see my reaction. I had already turned to Carter and said, "I'll walk you out." Carter looked at me, surprised. I said nothing. Just waited with a stern face. Carter finally nodded, casting a worried glance at Chloe before following me out. I opened the third door and walked Carter out. "Grace," Carter suddenly called out as he was leaving, his expression conflicted. "Call me Grace," I said, giving him a moment to sort out his thoughts. After hesitating, Carter finally spoke. "If you're not happy with it, let Chloe move back in." I smiled a bit. Carter was good at using moral dilemmas and reverse psychology. So I played along. "Are you afraid we'll mistreat your wife?" "No, I know you wouldn't." "Then what are you worried about?" "Nothing, thank you." I watched Carter's departing figure and smiled again. When I returned inside, Grandma had already prepared Chloe's sleeping area on the couch, her favorite spot. The next morning, when I woke up, breakfast was already made, and outside the window in the yard, Carter had half finished the greenhouse that Grandpa and I had planned to build these past few days. With the cold weather, to ensure we had vegetables in winter, Grandpa and I had planned to set up 2 greenhouses, but Carter had already started the work. I looked puzzledly at Chloe, who had prepared breakfast early. Chloe smiled at me, both pleasing and humble. Yes, her attitude was very humble. "You took me in and I really don't have much to offer in thanks, so I made breakfast. The food isn't bad," and brother just, perhaps recalling something, Chloe paused awkwardly. Seeing me looking at Carter working in the yard, she quickly started talking again. "I got up this morning, and so did my brother, seeing you and Grandpa working so hard on the farm every day. I thought I'd invite him to help out." "How did you get the keys?" "The third door has a spare key besides the fingerprint scanner, but the key is with Grandma. I asked Grandma for it. I was planning to come back earlier, but I didn't want to disturb you all." Sure enough, it was Grandma again. The keys couldn't unlock the door from the outside. The third door could only be opened from the inside. I took a bite of the scrambled eggs Chloe made. They were indeed delicious. Pointing at the breakfast she had prepared, I asked, "Does this look like you were planning to go back?" Chloe indeed had no plans to return to live in the treehouse. Her breakfast had successfully persuaded my grandparents. Grandma said, "Now that it's winter, it's too cold outside. It's not good for Chloe, a pregnant woman, to keep living in the treehouse, and it's not good for the baby either." I actually covered the outside of the treehouse with sheet metal, but a treehouse with sheet metal is definitely colder than a house, and the blankets inside are not down either. It must be really cold to live in. And I don't know if Chloe's previous stomach pains were related to this. Anyway, since she moved in last night, she hasn't complained of pain. For the sake of the child, I didn't object either. However, the most important reason was that Chloe's breakfast had won me over too. Grandma is getting older, and it pains me to see her up so early. I tend to sleep in and can't wake up to make breakfast. Ella needs to eat breakfast as she is growing, and not just Ella. Our whole family needs breakfast in the morning, although it seems somewhat unethical to have a pregnant woman, almost 8 months along, get up every day to make breakfast for our family. Chloe does it willingly, and so, Chloe moved in. After she moved in, the breakfasts were always on time, and she was always humble in her demeanor, mostly quiet, only trying to please Grandma while keeping her distance from me and Carter. Since Chloe moved in, he has been coming into the yard to work every day, with Chloe opening the door for him each morning. With the two of them, one making breakfast and the other working in the yard every day, our family gradually stopped doing much ourselves. These leisurely days are truly intoxicating. Since we were idle anyway, I would pull Grandma and Grandpa to play mahjong. Sometimes, we'd invite Chloe too. Chloe plays cards slowly, always counting carefully. I found she was good at strategizing, but didn't win much. Only Grandma always had good luck. I teased her, suggesting that someone who used to wield the surgical scalpel and held the power of life and death probably had steadier hands and a stronger aura. Grandma didn't reply. Time flew by, and Chloe's acceptance in the household grew. Even Grandpa, who openly disliked Chloe, would sometimes show her a little kindness, and me, I found myself calling her more often, seemingly getting used to her presence, though sometimes she still gave me an uneasy feeling. As if she was probing something, she was always trying to peek into various rooms where I stored things. Before she moved in, I hadn't locked the storage rooms, but after she moved in, I locked them, yet, she still tried to follow me or Grandma whenever we went to get something. Once, seeing her curiosity, I simply took her on a tour of the rooms with rice and meat products. I saw her eyes nearly sparkle with delight. Clearly very pleased, she looked at it fondly, as if it were her own possession. I smiled and told her that I was lucky to have prepared a chaotic mix of things for the bar, never expecting to use it all. Chloe withdrew her gaze, smiled, and complimented my cleverness before she left. The next morning, I got up early and saw that Chloe and Carter were already chatting in the yard. "Brother, we've got a lot of stuff, everything you could think of, grains, flours, and a whole house full of meat products. It's enough for several generations to come, once we get hold of this." "What are you guys talking about?" I approached Chloe from behind as she was happily chatting away, wearing cloth shoes. I moved quietly. Carter was busy weeding and Chloe was facing him, so neither saw me coming. Chloe turned around and went pale, startled by my sudden appearance, and Carter also gave me several nervous looks. "What's wrong with you two?" I asked, noticing their odd expressions. It looked as though I had caught them in an affair, but the affair wasn't what I had exposed. It was something Chloe had willingly shared with me. Recently, I had grown quite fond of Chloe, especially since her cooking was delicious. Being 8 months pregnant wasn't easy, and besides, her presence meant we were never short a player for mahjong. She even occasionally called me Sister Grace. Apart from that one slap, I couldn't think of anything else that would have made her so pale and frightened. What puzzled me more was Carter's reaction. He was a senior manager in a large state-owned enterprise, and it was rare to see him with such an expression over work matters. "No, nothing. I was just discussing with Carter how hard farming is. I was thinking of learning it myself after the baby is born to help you all," Chloe said, looking earnestly at me. I chuckled. "Is that all? It's not hard, but you have to be sincere. My grandfather taught me that plants are also living beings. They can sense sincerity. If you care for them genuinely, they will flourish. If you only think about how to consume them, they might not grow well." Chloe gave an awkward smile. "I see. Oh, I still have one dish left to prepare for breakfast, and Grandma and Grandpa will be up soon. I'll go cook." She then hurried off almost as if escaping, watching Chloe rush away. I looked puzzledly at Carter. Previously, Chloe had always been cautious when I chatted with Carter, but this time she even left him behind willingly. I was baffled. "So," I teased Carter, "your wife doesn't care about you anymore?" Carter didn't respond and just walked away. Soon, it was the end of the year, and unbelievably we had survived 4 months in this post-apocalyptic world. One day in December, it suddenly started snowing heavily. Chloe was only a month away from giving birth. It had been a very long time since we last saw such heavy snow here, covering everything with a thick layer about half a meter deep. That morning, Grandma was particularly energized because it was the day before the Lunar New Year's Eve. It was also Ella's birthday. This morning, Grandma braved the snow to venture outside. In the snowy garden, she found 2 cabbages and fetched a pumpkin from a cave on the western hill. The hill to the west of Grandma's house harbors 2 caves, which have been there since my early childhood. Grandpa explained that they were originally air raid shelters. Later, when fortifications were built, these caves were repurposed with a corridor leading from the yard to them. One cave serves as a cellar, storing the pumpkins and corn we harvest, while the other conceals a diesel and an electric generator. As soon as Grandma returned home, she was bustling about. By the time I came downstairs, shivering and biting my molars, with Ella in tow, Grandma had already slaughtered a chicken, and Chloe was adding wood to the stove. The kitchen was warm with the stove fire crackling energetically. Grandma was busily moving about, and the iron stove was steaming profusely, filling the air with a long stream of mist. It suddenly brought back memories of celebrating the new year before the apocalypse, smoothing out the oddness of Chloe's presence. "Happy birthday, my dear." Grandma greeted Ella as soon as she saw her descending the stairs. Chloe also smiled at Ella and said, "Happy birthday, Ella." I led Ella to the iron stove to add some wood and said, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." Then, looking at Grandma, I added, "Grandma, may you live a long, healthy life. And what about Grandpa? Shouldn't he live to 101 then?" Grandpa said as he entered, bringing a chill with him along with some snowflakes. He had been out gathering firewood. I chuckled and took the damp wood from Grandpa's hands. "Well, make it 200. that wouldn't be right, that'd be a monster. We all laughed and teased, my gaze inadvertently passing over to Chloe in the corner. Although she was smiling with us, there seemed to be a chilly undertone in her laughter. Upon closer inspection, Chloe smiled brilliantly at me. Ella's birthday was also celebrated by Carter, who was invited. After a simple breakfast, Grandpa suggested that since it was Little New Year, we should have a reunion dinner in the evening. The New Year holds a special significance in the hearts of Chinese people, especially in these apocalyptic times, so despite the unusual assembly, no one objected. With 5 of us helping, Grandma quickly prepared a table full of dishes and even made a special steamed bun cake with 2 eggs for Ella. Ella used a stick to make a wish on the cake, marking the occasion. Ella shared her wish aloud. She hoped that everyone at the table could always stay together, safe and sound. Following Ella's words, I turned to Chloe and Carter. Being neighbors like this isn't bad at all. Carter's eyes twinkled, while Chloe responded with a radiant smile. Indeed, at the dinner table, Chloe pulled Carter next to her and gently placed his hand on her stomach, happily telling him, just 1 more month to go. It seemed like Carter was suddenly coming to a realization. He looked up at us with a complicated expression. I met Carter's gaze boldly, arching an eyebrow and shifting my eyes away, signaling him to mind his own business. Carter moved his lips but ultimately remained silent. At that moment, Grandpa spoke up. Let's eat. Outside, the snow continued to fall, and inside, we enjoyed our meal, deliberately avoiding past grievances and hoping for better times ahead. Grandpa even shared a few drinks with Carter, warmed by the lively atmosphere. With winter days being short and the snowfall heavy, it was dark before we knew it. As usual, I walked Carter out. I held an umbrella as we walked, and after a while, he began to apologize. I didn't respond, assuming he was just speaking under the influence. After a short silence, Carter apologized again. Grace, I'm sorry. Then he knelt in the snow, crying like a dog. Grace, I'm sorry. Ella, I'm sorry. Grandpa, I'm sorry. Grandma, I'm sorry. I sighed, looking at Carter in the snow. Carter, it makes sense that you're apologizing to me and Ella. After all, you failed as both a husband and father, but why are you apologizing to my grandparents? Carter didn't speak, just knelt in the snow and wept. After a long while, when I was starting to feel frozen myself, Carter stood up, as if he had made a decision, glanced at our house, and then staggered toward his treehouse. I watched Carter's retreating figure and called out to him, just 1 more month, right? Carter was startled. He didn't turn around, but his staggering figure straightened up quite a bit. In a month, Chloe's baby will be born. Congratulations. You're going to be a father again. Carter bowed his head, extended his hand forward, and I knew he was wiping his tears. After a moment, he clenched his fist and with a hoarse voice said to me, Grace, in the next life, may you never meet me. I chuckled, wishing nothing more. After Carter left, I watched his figure and stood in the snow for a long time. The next day I was woken up by noise. When I opened the window, I was stunned. Outside, there were several people alive. This was the first time we had seen other living people besides Carter and Chloe in over half a year since the apocalypse began, but they were not there with good intentions. They had guns. The noise I heard was gunfire. Carter heard the gunfire too and hurried over. Seeing Carter made me feel much safer, and I quickly opened the door for him. After Carter came in, I stood behind him and instinctively pulled on his sleeve. Seeing me do this, Carter softly reassured me, It's okay, don't be afraid. I nodded, my grip tightening. Carter felt my reliance and stepped in front of me to protect me. That leader, I've seen him before. He's the tanker truck driver who sold me diesel. I whispered to Carter. I had stockpiled fuel and hired a tanker because of the large quantity needed. They saw my bar when they delivered it. I didn't expect them to come looking for us now. They mean trouble, Carter said, watching the men cautiously. Little sister, remember me? The tanker driver caught my eye, played with the gun in his hand, and laughed brazenly, signaling to his companions on the truck. I didn't respond, and suddenly, within my line of sight, the driver fired a shot at me. I was shocked, staring as the bulletproof glass in front of me cracked. It took me a while to catch my breath. The bulletproof glass was already marked with several bullet holes. It was these gunshots that had woken me up that morning. They actually dared to shoot without any restraint, clearly showing no fear of the zombies. I'm incredibly grateful that I had prepared for the worst back then, sparing no expense on 35mm bulletproof glass, and installing 3 layers of it. Otherwise, I would be dead by now. Whoa, you scared me there, sister. Didn't you say you were divorced last time I visited? Who is this guy? Carter turned to look at me, his expression questioning why the driver knew about my divorce. I was somewhat speechless. At a time like this, that's what he cares about. Grinding my teeth, I spoke up. This man, he discriminates against women. Last time when I tried to buy fuel from him, he refused to sell to me, insisting my husband should come. It was only after I told him I was divorced that he agreed to sell to me. He knows I own this place. He came looking for me, I said as I stepped out from behind Carter. What do you want? I asked, standing my ground and confronting the fuel truck driver. This place is really something. I was foolish. It took me almost half a year to realize what this place was used for. It's all thanks to the distress signal your neighbors put on the zombies. If we hadn't killed a zombie and found the cloth strip it was carrying, soaked in blood, I wouldn't have remembered this great spot, said the fuel truck driver, looking at me with a lecherous gaze. I saw the look in the driver's eyes and felt very uncomfortable, retreating behind Carter. Carter was also furious, glaring fiercely at the driver. Just then, the sound of gunfire attracted zombies, but perhaps due to the cold temperature, there weren't many active ones. Seeing the zombies, the fuel truck driver didn't panic. He climbed onto his large box truck, which he was now driving. His truck's cab was high off the ground, out of reach of the zombies. He and his companion on the truck shot at the zombies, headshotting each one skillfully. It's no wonder they had survived over 4 months in this apocalypse without a fortress. The scene was too gory for me to watch. I lowered my head and gently rested my forehead against Carter's back. I could feel Carter's body stiffen for a moment, but then he stood up straight. Sister, don't be afraid to watch. I know the place is yours. Let me in, and I'll help you kill them. We can stick together. The fuel truck driver continued to headshot the approaching zombies. Kill who? I suddenly burst out angrily, stepping out from behind Carter. That useless man in your house. Don't worry, sister, I like you, you can be with me. We have half a truckload of weapons in the back. With a treasure trove like yours, we can go out, loot stuff, and store the loot here. We could live inside forever. I'll be the king, and you'll be my queen. Doesn't that sound good? I gritted my teeth and sneered, stepping in front of Carter. You want me to kill someone for you? Why should I help you open the door? By now, most of the surrounding zombies had been headshot, with only a few approaching from a distance. Is this your ex-husband or who? You're divorced now. Why wouldn't you be with me? The fuel truck driver's tone was becoming impatient, and his methods of killing zombies grew more brutal. He first shot off the limbs of the zombies, turning them into human sticks. Before headshotting them, I'm divorced, but that doesn't mean I want to be with you, I said as I stepped forward and took Carter's hand. Carter was visibly taken aback but then clasped my hand in return. Seeing my reaction, the tanker truck driver's tone suddenly turned harsh. Oh, you don't like me, little sister. I genuinely wanted to be with you. Suppressing the disgust in my stomach, I glared at him coldly. But I don't want to be with you. Such a pity. I really like this place. It seems now I'll have to take it by force. I've decided, he said, withdrawing his gun used to shoot zombies and fired several shots at us. Then, the people in the truck also began firing relentlessly at our bulletproof glass wall. My hands tightly gripped Carter's, trembling uncontrollably. Carter spoke in a deep, reassuring voice. Don't be afraid. They're probably not military trained and likely don't have heavy weapons, with the kind of firepower they have. The bulletproof glass won't break anytime soon. We also have perimeter walls, and the house is fortified with bulletproof glass. The more they shoot, the more zombies they'll attract. They'll have to split their firepower to deal with the zombies. If they can't breach our defenses soon, they'll exhaust their ammunition and it will be hard for them to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. They'll have to consider that. They're definitely not military, I said, staring coldly at the tanker truck driver. What did you just say? Carter didn't catch it but didn't ask further, instead turning loudly to the tanker truck driver. Our facility is equipped with bulletproof glass thicker than 10 centimeters and the walls are half a meter thick. Your firepower won't break through any time soon. With the increasing number of zombies, are you not considering the waste of your ammunition? The tanker truck driver fired at Carter. I don't need advice from a scholar on your little pieces of glass. I've got half a truckload of bullets left. I'm set on taking this place. And the girl too. Boys, break through this wall. He angrily fired several more shots at Carter, and soon the bulletproof glass in front of us started to show a spiderweb pattern. I felt the first layer of bulletproof glass might give way. I panicked slightly, Look, the first layer of bulletproof glass has been breached, inside their truck. There are people with loads of ammunition. He just said he still has half a truckload left. I believe he's not bluffing. If they keep firing indiscriminately, our triple-layered walls won't hold either. The spiderweb patterns multiplied. And these men concentrated their fire on one spot. The bulletproof glass I bought was 150 centimeters by 150 centimeters. If they breached just one panel, they could get through. Carter, Carter, I called out anxiously, then stared at him. Carter, sensing my gaze, suddenly loosened his hold on my hand. I quickly realized something and spoke up. Don't worry, no matter what. I won't let them in. I can't let them kill you. I need you alive. You need to think of a way. They have so many people firing. The glass won't hold, I said, my voice nearly breaking into sobs. Carter gave me a strained smile. I have no doubts about you. Suddenly, a shard hit the third layer of bulletproof glass in front of us. Startled, I froze for a moment before hurriedly closing the brass doors on the windows. What do we do? What do we do? Carter, the glass has been breached. I began to panic, pulling on Carter. They are about to get in. They are human, and our only defense left is this bulletproof wall. They might try to climb over the perimeter walls, then we'll only have the electric fence to stop them. Electricity. A light bulb went off in my head, and then I looked at Carter. I have an idea. There's an electric fence behind the outer steel mesh, 380 volts. Carter looked at me, eyes wide with surprise. I pulled Carter towards the house, having heard gunshots in the morning. I had already instructed my grandparents not to go outside, and they were staying put inside. As we left, I glanced outside through another window. The intense gunfire had attracted many more zombies, and the tanker truck drivers had turned to fight them off. Our bulletproof glass hasn't been shattered yet, but one panel is almost completely destroyed. Once they break through the first layer of the electric fence, they can get in. I anxiously pulled Carter inside the house, and once we were in, I immediately called out to Grandpa, Grandpa, go start the generator and connect it to the electric grid. As Grandpa went to start the generator, Chloe, who was in the house, looked at Carter and me holding hands with a tinge of jealousy. I quickly let go of Carter's hand. Chloe was clearly terrified and came to Carter seeking comfort. Carter hugged her gently, then came over to me. Now we both knew that the immediate crisis was what mattered most. What's the plan? We need to lure their vehicle closer. Then, when they're off guard, we can hook a wire to their car with 380 volts. The voltage might not be stable, but if it doesn't kill them, it should at least paralyze them long enough for the zombies to take over. But it's risky for us to approach and lay the wire from inside. They're armed, just one shot and, I nodded, that's why it's safer to do it from outside. What do you mean? I remember when the driver asked me if there were more bars like this one. I told him it was a chain. Actually, I was just afraid he'd suspect something. Now, Carter doesn't suspect a thing either. I'll give him a set of keys, tell him there's another bar in Wuhan that's mine, identical to this one, and I'll give it to him. Do you think he'll believe that? If I gave you a set of keys as a way to send you off, would you believe it? I countered Carter. Carter shook his head. So, the best strategy is for someone to go out, hand over the keys, and tell him they'll show him the way. Show him the way. Carter frowned. Not really lead the way. But while handing over the keys and supplies, take the opportunity to connect the wire and then make a run for it. We'll power it up the moment the person gets back inside. The person who goes out should return while they're paralyzed, and once they're back, we'll electrify it again and draw more zombies over. Then, we leave the rest to the zombies. Carter nodded. It might work, but we need to electrify immediately after laying the wire. Can we manage that? I led Carter to the electric switch, positioned right by a stained glass window. From there, we could clearly see outside, and I had applied a one-way film, so no one outside could see in. Now, the only issue is, among us here, only you and I are fit to go out. If anyone else went, they wouldn't be believed. I said, looking at Carter. I'll go, Carter said without hesitation. Chloe, hearing this, was visibly shocked and both anxious and fearful. Brother, you can't, this is, she looked at me, implying that I should go instead to keep Carter here. I ignored her. Then, Grandma will handle the switch, and I'll go with you to draw their attention. Carter nodded. Once Carter and I were outside, a group of approaching zombies was neutralized with headshots, but now that the engine was running, its roar would likely attract all the zombies from the western mountains as well. Now, with our house separating them from the zombies on the western hill, The tanker truck drivers can't see the zombies to the west for the moment. This is to our advantage. Carter and I approached the tanker truck drivers as we had rehearsed. The drivers were skeptical, but Carter spoke up. I'll go with you and lead the way. If you keep fighting like this, you'll soon attract another wave of zombies. You're using up a lot of ammunition. He pointed at the scattered shell casings. And look, the more noise you make, the more zombies gather from afar. Instead of fighting a war of attrition here, why not drive and check out Wuhan? It's not far, just 200 kilometers. I'll go with you, and if you find out I've tricked you, you can kill me then. It won't be too late to come back and attack this place. The tanker truck drivers, especially a young man in a green shirt who looked very tired, seemed to be wavering. Bro, I think we should check it out, even if we conquer this place. It's ruined. Wouldn't a new place be better? Carter held the keys. And despite his reluctance, the driver in green next to him began to falter. Maybe we should take a look. These zombies keep coming wave after wave, and we can't beat them. Holding a gun all morning is exhausting. When have we ever fought like this? We're just looking for a place where we can sleep peacefully at night. If this place is destroyed, it won't be comfortable to sleep in. Let's find a new one. Finally, the tanker truck driver relented. If you lead us there, why would we need to deal with you anymore? Another driver nearby seemed to soften a bit when he looked at Carter and the keys he held. If you have any decency, you'll give me the truck to drive back myself. If not, you might as well kill me on the spot. Either way, my life is in your hands. The truck driver smiled, clearly enjoying the power he held over others' lives. He glanced at me. I'll trust, little sister, this time. It's a pity, little sister. I really like you. If you ever regret this, you can come find me, but by then I might have found another queen. I could make you a concubine. I remained silent, worried about Carter. As Carter was about to leave, I shouted loudly, as we had planned earlier, to take some electrical wiring in the physical box. Wait, if he comes back alone, he might not have anything to eat on the way. We still have some food at home, and I see you don't have much on your truck. Can I bring some for you all? I asked, seeking the tanker truck driver's approval. The driver smiled. No need to bring much. Just bring, little sister, along. I glared at him, then spoke to his weary companions who kept shifting their shoulders, or you could keep attacking each other. Wearing both sides down, the truck driver was taken aback by my boldness, waved his hand, and let me go, clearly exhausted himself. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll bring you all something tasty. I needed to buy some time. The zombies from the Western Hill hadn't arrived yet. I pulled Carter inside, found a very tightly packed down jacket, wrapped a thick scarf around his neck, prepared a large helmet, and put on a pair of down gloves for him. Chloe watched as I packed Carter's things, seemingly wanting to say something but hesitated. I ignored her, carefully wrapped up Carter, who looked very moved and didn't glance at Chloe for even a second. Finally, after everything was packed, I embraced Carter as if he might never come back, saying, Carter, stay safe. Carter patted my back and glanced over at Chloe. It was then I realized I was being overly emotional. Chloe gave me a subtle nudge and whispered, Brother, you must come back safe. Before leaving, she took off Carter's helmet and gave him a kiss. Carter and I, carrying a box filled with wires, stepped out the door. From the west, the zombies seemed very close. We needed something louder, or perhaps, the scent of blood. Carter put on his helmet and came out. The tanker truck driver, wary, kept his gun trained on him. Carter waved at them and called out, Move the truck closer. I'm scared of the zombies, and besides, I have to come back, and no one would protect me then. Hearing Carter's voice, the driver slightly lowered his guard. Meanwhile, Carter's shouts attracted a large group of zombies from the west. Seeing the sudden surge of zombies, the tanker crew raised their guns in dismay. Lizzie, move closer, let him get on, one of the drivers shouted while fighting off the zombies, signaling his companion to drive nearer. Inside, I helped Carter unlock and lock doors consecutively, until he finally went out with the equipment, pretending to board. Carter made the tanker driver open the door, but then dropped his gear. The driver, frustrated yet unable to close the door as zombies closed in, was distracted. At that moment, Carter wedged a rock under the door of the driver's side, then ran to the front of the truck, hooking wires from the electrical network to the truck. Seeing Carter finish, I shouted towards him, Carter, watch out for the zombies. A zombie ambled towards Carter, about 10 meters to his right. Hearing my shout, the tanker driver noticed Carter at the front and began to close the door slightly. urging Carter to hurry aboard as more zombies approached. However, he found a rock jamming his door and, realizing what was happening, he shot Carter in a rage. I watched as Carter was shot right in front of me, gasping. I screamed and gestured for Grandma to pull the switch. Grandma pulled the switch, electricity surged. Instantly, I saw the 4 men on the truck collapse stiffly, followed by the attacking zombies. I also saw Carter fall. Before he did, he removed his helmet and gave me a resigned smile. Watching his smile, tears streamed down my face. I wiped them away, suppressing the complex emotions inside as if he understood something. I turned away, signaling Grandma to cut the power. After the power was cut, the 4 men from the tanker were overwhelmed by the approaching zombies, and so was Carter, back inside. I broke the news of Carter turning into a zombie to Chloe. Chloe ran outside, screaming in despair at the sight of Carter, almost torn apart. Chloe's water broke. I watched, momentarily at a loss, as the blood mixed with the amniotic fluid streamed down, and the zombies outside grew excited, as if I had been waiting for this moment all along. It was only after my grandmother reminded me that I snapped back to reality, somewhat dazedly following behind her as she directed my grandfather to boil water and arranged for me to gather things to help Chloe with her childbirth. Chloe was wailing in pain and despair, teetering on the brink of collapse. I have given birth myself and knew the intense desperation of the pain. My grandmother was continuously comforting her. Chloe, it's okay. Chloe isn't doing well. The baby is in the wrong position. Chloe, I've never performed a cesarean section, but I've conducted thousands of surgical procedures. Do you trust me? Chloe, Chloe, Chloe. Under my grandmother's repeated calls, Chloe finally regained consciousness. Grandma, save the baby, please save him. Grandma, if I don't wake up, you must take good care of the child, okay? Grace, I'm begging you. I nodded, and so did Chloe, after drinking the general anesthesia my grandmother gave her. Regarding the medical supplies, it was all my grandmother's doing. I didn't know where she got the anesthetics from. She mentioned she was a doctor and kept them in stock for other patients at home, and now they were being used for Chloe. Chloe woke up eventually. The baby was fine, and so was she. However, over 2 months later, Chloe fell ill again. Tetanus. The surgical tools my grandmother had were incomplete. I had to find domestic sewing needles and bend them for her to use as substitutes. After falling ill, Chloe became increasingly thin. Over 2 months, she nearly withered away, showing signs of terminal illness. One day, she suddenly asked me to sleep beside her. Sitting by the bed, she seemed in better spirits than before. Grace, you like Zoe? Right. Chloe's child was named Zoe, which means little year. I nodded. You'll be good to her, right? I nodded again. Chloe took my hand with her frail one. I have something to tell you. The day Ella went out, I was the one who opened the second door. I actually harbored thoughts of harming you all, thinking that if you died, the house would belong to Carter and me. But, you know, when Ella was about to touch the child, Zoe suddenly kicked me, and I snapped out of it. Then I stopped Ella. Zoe and Ella must have a special connection. I didn't respond or pull my hand away. Grace, I'm sorry. Grace, thank you. I envy you for having such a wonderful grandmother. Grace, I think I'm dying soon. Chloe kept talking, regardless of whether I was listening or not. It seemed she just wanted to talk to someone. I also got into bed, lay beside her, and then took out a recorder and played the recording. Brother, living like this makes us inferior. Look at that. The attitude of your ex-wife. She is your ex-wife. Brother, I could bear children for you in the future. Wouldn't it be wonderful for us to live in this paradise as a family? I could bear many children for you if you wish. Right now, we're also running out of food. What if one day they stop giving us provisions? With so many people living here, with such limited land and resources, is there enough to go around? And with them around, we will always be seen as inferior. Look at how your ex-wife looks at you. In her eyes, you will always be a betrayer. Can't you see that she's looking down on you? Do you want our children to live their lives as lesser beings here? We can't rush this. I can't give birth on my own. I need Grandma to help me deliver. Once we gain their trust, we can act, throw them out, or perhaps, I can't do it. Grace is my past. Ella is my biological daughter. Biological daughter. Brother, this is the son you've always wanted. Ella is your daughter. But this here is your son. I've checked with the doctor. It's a boy. Keep her. Aren't you afraid that when she grows up, she might seek revenge for what you did to her mother? By that time, we'll be old, and our children will still be young. Brother, have you ever thought about her? Brother, how long will you hesitate? This is the apocalypse. Killing isn't illegal. If need be, I'll do it myself, and you help me. It's just a matter of a few stabs. Brother, think it over. I'm about to put the plan into action. Okay. Chloe's frail body suddenly began to shake violently. You knew all along. I patted Chloe, trying to calm her down and get her to lie back. But Chloe, like she'd seen a ghost, desperately tried to avoid me. She's nearly dead, yet still so afraid of ghosts. I turned my head towards her and whispered in her ear. I installed a listening device in that cabin, on the southern wall. It was originally to listen to the zombies outside, since there's no internet in the apocalypse. I had to use these primitive methods. I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you. You knew from the beginning. I nodded, and at this moment, Chloe calmed down a bit and stopped avoiding me, quietly lying next to me, her eyes filled with despair. I know, you saved Ella, moved into our house, gained our trust, and checked what I had stored. You planned for 2 months. You first asked Grandma for the keys, and once you had them, you were just waiting for the right moment. If it hadn't been for that little zombie, you would have engineered some other danger for Ella to face before rescuing her, right? I looked coldly at Chloe beside me, accepting reality. Chloe nodded and slowly began to talk calmly with me. I didn't expect that day. Heaven helped me. A small zombie appeared. I watched him for 3 days before I acted. That noon, I placed a butterfly in the zombie's hand, opened the door to lure Ella out, and waited there to rescue her in time. I had calculated your nap time in advance and prepared there for an hour, so calculating and strategic. I nodded, comparing myself to you. Are you mocking me? Chloe sneered. If my grandmother hadn't invited you in that day, you would have found some other pretext to enter, right? Then let me ask you. I didn't know where her sudden competitiveness came from, since you knew my plan. Was your concern for Ella in front of me just an act? No, a mother's worry for her child is natural. It's real. Just like you, now at death's door, lying, doing everything in your power to protect your child. Isn't that emotion also genuine? I just knew that before Grandma helped you successfully deliver the baby, you wouldn't openly harm any of us. I just wasn't visibly that worried. What about that slap then? That was intentional. I've wanted to hit you for a long time. Chloe's breathing quickened noticeably. And breakfast. Knowing my intentions, and my brother's intentions. You still let us make breakfast for you, work the fields. I knew your intentions, but that didn't stop me from accepting your help. I paused. In doing the chores, you played me. I was almost 8 months pregnant at that time, and you had me make breakfast for 2 months. Not that long, just over 30 days. I said calmly, more than 30 days. And I was over 8 months pregnant. Chloe grew more agitated. Chloe, I didn't force you. You volunteered. I gave you chances. Up until the little New Year's Day, I was always giving you chances. But you never changed your plans from the beginning to the end. I said we could be neighbors, but you and Carter, even after my obvious hints, didn't change your plans. I heard your conversation in the yard that day. I came out to remind you, but you never thought about changing your plans. I took a breath. Do you know, that day, Carter was crying in the snow, apologizing to grandfather and grandmother. But he still decided to go through with your plan. At that time, you had set our death date for a month later, and Carter was also you. Chloe suddenly trembled all over again, convulsing, extremely agitated. Chloe lunged at me, her teeth bared and bleeding, looking exactly like a vengeful ghost. I pushed her back down, calmly, and she was so light, it hardly took any effort. Yes, it was me. How could it be? That day I almost stopped him. How did you convince him to go willingly? Chloe started to sob again, looking helpless and desperate. I actually learned it from you. I know why Carter liked you, because you depended on him, like daughter. I could have acted like you, but I just don't like to deliberately become that way. That day, from the moment those people appeared, I was desperately protecting him, but also relying on him throughout, letting him find the same sense of dependence he felt with you and me. I understand Carter. The night before he was actually apologizing, feeling guilty, and I just used his guilt. I just didn't expect the timing to be so coincidental. His guilt peaked the night before, and the next day it was put to use. You lured him into his death from start to finish, Chloe said, heartbroken. You helped him dress, personally sending him to his death. Grace, your heart is so cruel. Chloe actually spat out a mouthful of blood, showing she truly loved Carter. I just smiled. I was ruthless because if I weren't, by now our family of 4 would likely be just 4 mounds in the yard, or perhaps you would have ended up as fertilizer, but you shouldn't exploit his guilt to cause him an accident. You're wrong, it was no accident, I said calmly. It wasn't an accident. Are you saying those people were your... Chloe's eyes were bloodshot, almost popping out. She looked like a terrifying female ghost. But she was too weak to even lunge at me. They were my knives. The knives I used to kill indirectly. Why would you use others to commit murder? Looking at the ceiling, I spoke lightly. If I had killed Carter myself, would you still willingly have a child? Chloe didn't respond, but she coughed violently from the agitation. The final deadline you gave us was after you had the child. Right, so, I had to act first. I didn't want you to suspect anything. If Carter had died and left you heartbroken, you might not have wanted the child anymore, and what I wanted was this child. I turned my head to look at Chloe, who was glaring at me like a ghost, and smiled slightly. Moreover, I didn't want to get my hands dirty. You might say it's just a matter of a few stabs, but it's not that simple. Even killing a chicken isn't easy, let alone a person. Murder is not easy. I didn't want to do it myself and I'm not good at it. I took a breath and turned back. I also didn't want Ella to know I killed her dad and leave her traumatized. She's 6 now, she understands things, and even if she doesn't now, she will in the future. She wouldn't forgive me, so, the best solution was to borrow a sharp knife. If I could get the one I wanted, it would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. If not, I might have had to do it myself. Were those people you brought in? And how did you know they would come the day after the Chinese Lunar New Year? I smiled. I didn't know. How could I possibly know that? I just borrowed the knife. I can't control when the knife arrives. Do you know how long I took to borrow this knife and how I got it? I glanced at Chloe with a slightly smug tone. After knowing your plan, every night I threw out pieces of cloth soaked with chicken blood or raw meat, or other blood-stained items, using the zombies as messengers. It took 3 months, but they finally noticed. Rescue cloths. Weren't you afraid someone else might come? What if the knife you wanted didn't find out? I did worry about not getting the knife I wanted, but I wasn't too concerned about someone else coming. The cloth I sent out was like an encrypted rescue signal. I wrote an address on it. My neighbors, a 23-year-old woman with slight mobility issues, and not much supplies left. I used our area's old name, only known by those who've lived here for many years. The knife I needed happened to know it. He couldn't find it initially when he came to deliver oil, but once I mentioned the old name, he found it quickly. You and Carter might not have noticed when you came, but this place is quite secluded, actually very hard to find. Without navigation, it's almost impossible in a world overrun with zombies. Also, knowing he was lustful. A woman aged 23 with limited mobility and supplies would not be at an advantage in a post-apocalyptic world. The burden of being rescued is something most people would avoid unless they had an ulterior motive. The final piece of the puzzle is the address. A very specific one, just one number different from ours. He's delivered oil to me before and has seen my bar. Just seeing this address should jog his memory of what my bar looks like. After all, it's quite distinctive. In this apocalyptic world, who wouldn't want a fortress like that? They came not for the 23-year-old woman, but for the fortress itself. As it turned out, my neighbors have long been gone. Chloe's expression shifted from excitement to shock, and by the end, there was a hint of admiration. You picked such a sharp knife and lost the bulletproof glass walls. Any regrets? Didn't you consider that the knife might cut you as well? I smiled. Of course I don't regret it. The knife I used to borrow for killing was actually my target too. Now, it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I lost a wall, but technically, it was 14 bulletproof glass panels. There are 15 spares at home, so my grandfather and I will just take our time to install them later. I think the price was worth it. Plus, he sent a lot of guns over, which are no worse than the bulletproof glass. It seems you have a vendetta against that knife. Chloe smirked coldly. Yes, I gritted my teeth. The leader, the oil salesman driver, is a rapist. Many years ago, he and another man in his truck tried to rape me. My mother told me to run. By the time I found someone to save her, my mother was already. They were sentenced to 5 years, but during these 12 years, my mom has been hiding in the U.S. with my uncle, too scared to come back. I recognized him the moment I saw him, but he didn't recognize me. I scoffed. I added him on Instagram. The last message I saw on his moments was that he had found a gun. Knowing he had a gun, he had already become my knife. Chloe turned to face me, her expression unusually calm, as if genuinely seeking advice. You mentioned earlier you're not sure about the timing. What if your knife arrives after I've given birth? Then I'll have to take matters into my own hands to deal with you and him. I spoke calmly. Chloe suddenly became agitated, coughing up blood again. Probably from a lung injury. Grace, I suppose you could handle me and Carter, but they have guns, and you don't have Carter helping you with the electric wires anymore. How will you deal with them? Are you expecting your grandfather to do it? Of course not. I've already planned for this situation. Don't worry. I dared to lure them here because I had already thought of ways to deal with them. Actually, the loss of the bulletproof glass was mainly because of Carter. Without him, I might have dealt with them without sacrificing the glass. Chloe was puzzled. How so? Do you really want to know? I looked at Chloe with a half smile, not waiting for her response. I continued, for instance, using you, who can't resist, stripped of your clothes outside to attract them. How do people look at a naked beauty? Obviously, they'd be lying in an electrified cage. My cage is charged with 380 volts. You asked for it. Any more questions? Chloe coughed violently several times, almost splattering blood on me. I got up from the bed, seeing me about to leave. She coughed intensely again. I give up. Grace, will you raise my child? I will, I replied without turning back. But I won't tell her you were her mother. Chloe sighed deeply and lay back down. Okay, I will also tell her she has a sister, born to protect her, that her greatest loves are her family and her sister, that she would sacrifice everything for her sister. Rest in peace, Chloe. Grace, I walked to the door. It had started snowing again. This winter has been long, but the trees on the distant mountain seemed to have green buds, signaling spring wasn't too far off. That night, Chloe didn't wake up again. I executed my plan without ever revealing it to my grandparents, but I felt that my grandmother must have known something. A few days ago, I saw an unopened surgical needle by her bed, yet, she still accepted the old, rusty sewing needle I gave her, which was hardly usable. In fact, from the first day Chloe arrived, I had my eyes on her child. When I had previously built the fortress, my biggest worry was that Ella would have to face the world alone someday. Then later, when Chloe and Carter brought their child, I wanted to open the door for them right away at the sight of their child. However, I had to give them a reason to hate me because all I wanted was that child.